Right. I am so excited for today's show. This is going to be amazing. We have got the beautiful and amazing Laura Eisenhower and the equally gorgeous and amazing Frank Schwartz. And today we're going to be talking about astrology insights, looking at the key alignments for the rest of 2024 into 2025, what to expect, but really, really importantly, how to prepare. And you're going to be blown away when you find out what Laura's got to say about what's coming astrology wise for us all, how we can align ourselves to the planetary alignments and shifts, and what we're going to do to prepare for this. So, Laura, I mean, I think everyone knows you, but you are so multi-talented, not just with your astrology, with all the work you do. Just tell people who haven't met you before a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I just love your work and getting to know Frank has been so amazing. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys. I was born into the Eisenhower family. He's my great grandfather. So that was a major catalyst for me growing up. Just trying to understand the world, the deeper layers, the dark agendas, a lot of information that we hear about questioning it because I think we've all come to realize that there's a lot of rewritten history, a lot of indoctrination, a lot of social engineering. So I really expanded that and all my life into every sort of level of our existence, health, um, our galactic origins, what our DNA is really made of. So I'm an astrologer and I like to use that as a tool to help people to gain self-awareness and unlock their hidden potential and also break negative patterning. So health is a big focus. And I'm also an author, I'm an international speaker, and my book is really about my life journey and what I learned along the way about this really profound window, especially, and why I say global alchemists, because we're all alchemists. And on this larger picture level, we're really turning the lead of this human experience into gold. So yeah, that's kind of my focus, and I'll just kind of leave it at that.
I love it. And both Frank and I have had personal readings with Laura, and obviously all Laura and Frank's details will be below. And you have got to get yourself a reading with Laura. It is phenomenal. I really can't overestimate just how great it was. And my lovely co-host Frank Schwartz. Now, Frank and I have been friends for a couple of years now. And Frank, you've had sort of 30 plus years in business. Um, well, nearly 35 years now as a senior finance in the industry, but you've really moving into supporting people through health transformations because you have had the most amazing health transformation yourself. So, anything else you want to add to that, Frank?
You know, it so working in corporate America lacks kind of the heart-touching stuff. It pays the bills, but it doesn't bring you the joy that I have found with what I'm doing on the side here and getting to meet such amazing people like Laura and yourself. And I got to tell you, Catherine, it was really you that inspired me from listening to back in 2020. I started following you after the passing of my dad. I took that kind of hard. He and I didn't have the best relationship, and we were on very different pages. And before he passed, he said, Frankie boy, seek the truth because what you think you know isn't right. And I need you to do that. So in honor of him, I went soul searching and looking and listening into everything I could find with people that resonated with me. And obviously you were one of the main ones. And thank you for what you do, by the way. Each of you are just so amazing gifts to humanity. And I hope other people feel the same way because it's such a well-deserved um, gift that you have that you share. And yeah, so I was inspired by this product, and I had with all that life throws at you, stress can really, really impact your health. And I had lost vision in my right eye completely due to complications with high blood sugars. And I was told that I would be losing my driver's license because the privilege to drive, I would be legally blind. And that just didn't sit well with me. And the retina surgeon said, well, and we're going to come back in 6 months. And at that time, and he's like, I'm going to tell you now, it's not going to improve. There's just no way. And I thought to myself, don't tell me no. And don't tell me there's no way, because that just, no, there's got to be a way. And that's when I heard you had brought this amazing product to light. And I said, you know what do I have to lose? Let me try it. And thankfully I did, because before that next 6-month appointment, my vision was restored. And the retina specialist said, that's just impossible. And I looked at him and said, you know what? With God, nothing's impossible. So, it is what it is. And I'm going to continue using what I use, because I'm no longer insulin dependent. I've lost a significant amount of weight, and I feel I was 58 at the time, and I think I feel better now, health-wise, mental-wise. In every way, I feel better now at 60 years old than I did when I was in my 30s.
Yeah, here, here.
Manage stress better.
And
So, sorry.
oh, so I was just sorry. There's a bit of a delay between us. I think it's the storms here in the UK. That's such a beautiful story. Thanks, Frank. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think stress is going to be quite a theme, perhaps, Laura. Well, let's wait and see what Laura's got to say for the show, because looking at the astrological picture for the rest of the year, Laura, I know this is something you're so expert about. So where do you want to begin with that? What's your starting point?
Oh man, hard to say where the starting point would be. These are really, of course, powerful times, crazy times. I mean, wow. Talk about awakening and what that means. And it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing for everyone, but I feel that I mean, regardless of how we define it, there's so many levels to it. I mean, there's awakening to the darker agendas, the crimes against humanity, the different events that have taken place in our human history, where infiltration has shown up through a lot of different projects, and like Project Paperclip and Mockingbird and these MK Ultra programs, and how the war has morphed into a war on consciousness, and how indoctrination, social engineering, and medical tyranny has really been the theme that has gotten people's attention. Whereas before, I feel like it was more like the grooming process. And some people haven't broken that that trance. They haven't seen through it yet, but we're in times where it's going to get to a very, very critical level, where I really feel the soul's going to be crying out, like, don't comply anymore, don't consent. And I look at the bifurcation like a breakup, like we're breaking up with an inverted system, like we would break up or divorce a negative partner, an abusive partner, a control freak narcissist type. And that divorce is our recognition that we deserve more, we're made of more, and we have to get our health back. We have to really focus on what this shift really represents. And some people don't even think about this ascension window period. And a lot of us do. We were born very aware of what these times would be about. We came in for this reason. A lot of others that haven't really thought about that, their creative channels are being infected by propaganda and false flags and psyops and all sorts of mechanisms to, keep one in this dependency bond. And that infects the creative channels, and it helps to enable artificial timelines, which requires our energy, our consent, and these bioharvesting methods, the siphoning and harvesting of just our dreams, our fears, how that's played upon is what we're breaking free from. So part of the manipulation is to play on the dreams, but then to, sort of invert that into a fear scenario, or a reward system that encourages a particular vision or dream for yourself that might not be what your higher self really wants. So there's a lot of crises that manifest in people's life to kind of shake them from that. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable, like, oh, I'm a failure, or why did this happen, or this fell apart. And it's very difficult sometimes for people to understand that these are coming from cosmic and natural laws and your higher self. And something that you're, calling forth to be on a completely different trajectory, and manifest synchronicities and realizations and connecting to downloads and all sorts of things that will connect you to why you're really here and what your soul calling is. And if we don't understand our depression, our anger, and what our physical body is telling us, it's very easy for somebody outside of us to take it down a particular road. And if we're not happy with that trajectory, if we're not feeling that that is the road we want to go down, where can we say stop? Where can we hold space for ourselves to really, really connect? And so Neptune Saturn conjunction is coming up. There has been such an influence of the Saturn Pisces in opposition to the recent new moon in Virgo in Pisces, and how Saturn and Neptune are going to be coming together in 2025 at 0 degrees Aries. So when a person were to look at that from a more awakened state, it's like, whoa, this is the manifestation of the divine human, where the ego identity is able to perceive the multidimensional, able to really work with the creative imagination and flip the inverted Saturn around, which is the ruler of the law of structure and rules and responsibilities, but also in its inverted dark expression, tyranny, control, and limitation. So when we can flip it around and recognize the self-mastery that we're gaining, then that Saturn energy will act as a container for the multidimensional, the spiritual, where we're in alignment with our dreams and visions, and we're able to manifest through the vehicle of our physicality, our physical vessel. So there's a lot of bombardment right now on that creative imagination with all these scenarios that want to hook in, want to take that energy, want to infect that energy. And there's massive breaking points. Pluto has going back into Capricorn for about 2 months, and then it's going direct for 20 years. And as Pluto enters Aquarius, it's really like a rebirth, like, whoa, wow, humans are going to really experience what liberation feels like. And it has to first start with the mind, with the heart, with the emotions, with every part of who you are. And then the physical catches up. If we, which we have as humans, have a false sense of freedom, and we're just gravitating towards where we're given that permission or where we're given that illusion of so-called freedom in this sort of punishment reward system and duality, we find ourselves further and further enslaved because it's playing on all those hopes and fears. So especially with our health, here's the solution, they say, right, to this pandemic. And that has gotten people more and more entangled in, just these control mechanisms and how that compromises the health and the creative imagination and the frequency of the being and their DNA, to the point where it's going to take a massive breakthrough to begin to break down that programming and mind control so that the body can then become spiritualized with this Neptune energy and begin to dissolve and break down the dark weaponry and the frequency manipulations, distortions, and where it's really, compromised a person. But it's almost like people need a trauma imprint to be able to wake up. And that's very much what we're up against. It takes almost like pain and being at rock bottom and being pushed to the edge before you really make a change. We can make excuses for partners that we think love us. We might see the red flags, but see, because I feel that there's no difference with the micro macro when it comes to relationships, being in relationship with the system versus organic creation, being in a relationship with an abuser versus true love. When we break all of that, it's a beautiful revelation and realization based in our capacity to rebuild our self-worth. So Chiron will be moving into Taurus. We'll really be looking at the wounds of our self-worth. Right now, Chiron is in Aries, so we're looking at the wounds of ego, the wounded warrior, the wounded identity, the indoctrination of the identity that people are beginning to break down. So yeah, because of needing to just kind of hit rock bottom, a lot of it is because humans generally are loving and trusting. So it's a shocker to think that, wow, they would really go to these lengths to harm us. I mean, it's just like so much to wrap one's head around. But yeah, that rock bottom, that is very much the Pluto, death and then rebirth, alchemy, transformation, having to let go, having to release, almost feeling like your physical body is going to follow, having health crises, having mental crises on every level, that if you don't hold your space, if you don't hold a sacred space for yourself to move through it, and you just hand it to the doctor, you're going to be pumped up with pharmaceuticals. You're going to be labeled. You're going to be diagnosed with things that are really going to mess with you. And you'll get further away from yourself. And this is a really a powerful time to get to know yourself more in the face of dis-ease, challenges, adversity, and to look at like wow, this is the big wake up call. This is a divorce. This is seeing that the red flags are now bonfires and you're burning your hands now. It's like time to step back and just put out the flames and honor your sacred flame, your ability to regenerate, your ability to have thought forms that are nourishing to your body, that are connected to God source, connected to your higher self and your intuition. So having products and like aligning with tools and modalities that support that are critical right now, because whether or not we're, actively consenting or partaking in what the medical industries are pushing on us, we're bombarded with frequency manipulations through the 5G, through our devices, through, all these different mechanisms. There's so much unconscious energy that's coming to the surface connected to ancient wounds in our ancestral lines that have manifested as dis-ease that we inherit. And so Chiron rules the 13th sign of Ophiuchus, and the sun will start to move through the 13th sign of Ophiuchus, ruled by the ether and Chiron, which is the purifying energies of that ether that purifies and clears the nucleic acids of our DNA, which are elemental, which, earth, air, fire, water, ether, which is what we're surrounded by. So if we can allow, this flow of energy, it's going to be amazing who we are and what we become by next year. And these planetary alignments are really showing it. So the question is, as Saturn gets closer to Neptune, as the nodes shift, which represents the growth period of humanity, North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo, which is what we're reflecting upon, what is the health of our body, mind, spirit connection or communication? And that integration process is everything. So Mercury rules Virgo, and it's an earth sign. What are our mental thoughts and how are they influencing our physical body? How can we begin to yank out, dismantle, transmute some of the negative patternings and programmings and discover our inner treasures and the things that have been asleep, like our dormant DNA that has been called junk? That is the arena to do that. And if we can do, that work, we will find that flow of energy is like reminding us of how incredibly powerful and creative we are. And once we get like a grip on that and devote ourselves to the process of getting truly embodied and aligned with that, we'll really starve the parasitic forces that are looking for a food source, that are looking for a place to plug into, and looking for you to have that vulnerability and that opening to where you're like, okay, tell me what to do. Give me the cure, or tell me what's wrong with me, when these are all opportunities to realize that there's so much right with us, and there's so much beauty to discover. There's so much power. There's so much transformative, energies that are encoded in us to embrace. But if we don't have the support of healing tools and modalities, working with frequency, working with ways for, our organs and our cells to communicate with each other, to detox, to clear just all sorts of, toxicity that just our thoughts and stress can do to our bodies, let alone, the food that we eat and what we breathe in, that even if it is organic, it's still, there's a lot of contamination in everything. So if we don't, do that, it's going to just be a lot harder. And it's just going to really help us reach these heightened states of awareness. And it's a very important thing to get in touch with, to bridge us into a much more purified and conscious and mindful and powerful state of being, to manifest a beautiful future. So I just look at it like, once you divorce, once you cut the cords, you're not in relationship to that energy anymore. It can't hurt you. It can't control you. Now, it might stalk you. It might try and make your life a living hell, which is what a lot of people experience when they leave the job or they break up with that partner, on a micro level. It's not always easy, but once you determine that relationship is done, you begin to notice the synchronicities that support all that your soul is looking for. And the soul-centered energy is the energy of ascension, not being in the personality matrix, not being infected by everything coming at us, but being soul-centered. And in that soul-centeredness, you meet soul family, you meet soulmates, you manifest synchronicities that will support everything about health and healing. And so a perfect example is us three coming together. It's like, how synchronistic. And, I've got my moments, right? But like, I have the devotion, and in that devotion, I have met the most incredible people like both of you. So I haven't really talked about the aspects, but with this nodal shift with the eclipses activating them, which show the growth period of humanity, we're going to be looking into that realm of the creative imagination and answering to our bodies to see whether or not our belief systems are in alignment with what our body wants and needs. And if we can give it the respect it deserves, we can flip anger around into passion, depression around into understanding our real soul longing and why we're here. and turn all these toxic emotions into purpose and into recognition of our deeper soul, calling. And then when we come together with that knowingness, that's when unity consciousness is really a beautiful thing. Instead of, be like me or think like me, that's not unity consciousness. That's the old paradigm manifesting in disguises that look like it's an awakened thing. But right now, I really feel it's personal sovereignty, taking responsibility for your health, and knowing when to say no and where the boundaries are needed. And once we do that, dark Saturn will not be playing such a heavy role. We can't make Saturn go away. I imagine sometimes just go away, Saturn. But it's a beautiful planet. It's self-mastery and being a teacher. So when we go through these trials and tribulations, it's like literally initiating us into a really powerful role of self-mastery and being a strong guide. And if we can flow with these initiatory planets, which are Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, which are all in harmony with each other, which is very rare, and they're going to be like that for a while, and we can just step back and realize that it's not going to be as hard as we think, that flow of energy will help us reach, these greater goals. And the discomfort is only temporary. Don't let it freak you out. But do everything you can to support yourself. A lot of people, freak out and turn to drugs or, like I said before, and just remember the greater cosmic intelligence is supporting you and your healing and awakening. We're healing with Mother Earth. We are in this particular window period. And all the alignments and everything happening in the greater cosmic intelligence is healing the planetary system of its Mother Earth body through the Venus transits, through the sun moving through Ophiuchus, and all these aspects coming in and into the year 2025 show and reveal where we're at with all that. And we're in a really, really good place. But because they understand this information, they will create inverted storylines in the form of psyops and false flags to hijack these growth periods. So we just have to be incredibly mindful. Jupiter, Gemini, in Gemini is square Saturn. And that's where the censorship is. Jupiter, Gemini is all about speaking, sharing information. Saturn squares that dark Saturn being like, nope, you can't. But the beauty of these outer planets and the fact that they're in such a higher dimension than the archonic lower forces can reach, it's just like, we just have to kind of laugh it off and allow ourselves to be strengthened by the things trying to stop us. And I think we all know that, wow, you can't shut us up. And the more you try and stop us, the stronger we get. And we have to allow these dark forces to be a catalyst and a reminder to all that we are and all that they're afraid of us becoming, and not look at, the weaponry from a place of victimhood. Look at it as a tool for your awakening and growth. And then it'll have no power over you. And then you'll begin to notice the blessings and all the gifts that Mother Earth provides to restore us to our full health and wellness.
Laura, can I just add something? And this may be completely irrelevant, but I'm going to have to watch this like 10 times just to really, really let it all sink in. And thank you for what you do and what you just shared. But I think for the average day person who is not yet awoke, and this is what kind of got me really thinking, I looked up the human vibration frequency chart, and fear and anger and all that stuff on the bottom, and I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be here. But all these things like organized religion keep you, the government, like all these things keep you in that lower vibration. And if you want to break out of it, that's the start of the awakening. Is just look at that chart. Ask yourself where you're at today and where do you want to be? I don't know if that is applicable for everyone, but it really worked for me.
Yeah, and your story is so incredible and inspiring. Gosh.
It is beautiful. And what I love about all of this, I mean, I'm with you, Frank. Every time I listen to one of your interviews, Laura, I listen to it about 10 times because every time I get more and more out of it. And I couldn't stop myself smiling when you were going through that, because I was like, oh yes, that explains this, that explains that. Now, oh yeah, lovely.
There you go.
Anyway, sorry, I had to.
No, it's so true. And I think for people watching this, because you've just summed up so much in there, Laura, I just wanted to come back to using some of these negatives as a tool for growth, because we see the divide and conquer being played out time and time again. And I think what you've just explained with the astrology and what we're seeing, for example, let's just take the United States where you guys are. You know, I'm just going to use RFK coming on board and some of the things where he's really spoken in a far more open way than I've certainly heard him, you know, taking it up to the next level about make America healthy again. And of course, everything that he's just closing there applies to every other you know, place on earth, certainly where I am in the UK. And I think what you've just explained so beautifully there is that a lot of people, they're in this low vibrational state, like you've just shown on the chart and Frank's just explained, and first and foremost to accept it, because there are lots of reasons why people get there. There's a lot being thrown at everyone. Never in history have we bombarded with such energetic forces from the EMF, from the toxins, from the air, water, sky, from these, from the emotional abuse, the disrespect in the way people speak to each other, which is often intensified on social media. Because when I was growing up, if you were going to be horrible to someone, you had to do it to their face. Now you can just do it anonymously behind a screen and not take the consequences. But actually, once you start cleaning up this physical vessel, then your mind, your pineal gland, you start tuning back in on a mind level, on a soul level, on a vibrational level, and reading things in a different way. And there's so much work that shows, I just love the whole regenerative agriculture movement, because it shows how quickly Mother Nature recovers. We all see this in our work. Laura, you see it in your work. Frank, you've seen it with your own personal story and you work with now. And I see it so much in the people and animals I work with. When you stop putting those toxins in, toxins through words, through energy, through physical toxins, the body's ability, the earth's ability to heal itself is so rapid and so powerful, isn't it?
Yes, totally. Yeah, and when you look at just, I mean, they're messing with animals. The treatment of animals for so long has just been unbelievable. Processed food, you know, when you look at the treatment of, you know, chickens and cows and just those that eat meat and go to fast food restaurants. I mean, it's unbelievable the conditions that they are raised in and what you pump them up in with. So there's just a massive reevaluation. You know, people just kind of go with whatever is in front of them. Growing up, what did their parents expose them to? Television shows, maybe fast food and TV dinners. Maybe some got some nice home cooked meals, but you know, where was that food, you know, coming from? But you know, it's just like, you know, people don't really think about it until they get in touch with their empathy and their feeling nature. And we're in a world that really cuts that off. Like, you know, Frank was talking about, you know, these careers or these jobs are just like, oh, but you'll make a lot of money. So what if you exploit people? So what if you abuse the environment? I mean, these aren't real careers, you know, and the fact that people having a hard time with those that are in the, you know, health and wellness in a much more holistic way, you know, might, you know, charge some money. They're like, oh, I can't believe you're charging for this. It's like, well, it's better than, you know, spending a lot of money and getting a big paycheck for, you know, harming and exploiting. You know, and I know a lot of people do, you know, a tremendous amount just from the goodness of their heart and for free as well. But we have to just change the currency, what we invest in, what we consume, how we can redirect that, how we can begin to move from, you know, this particular currency system that we've been involved in. But yeah, it's amazing, you know, because we're born with amnesia. We don't go to third period class and learn our galactic history. We don't learn about our chakras. We don't learn about what our DNA is really made of. And it's just about that regurgitation. So that low vibration, I really feel, is this inner grief and this unresolved trauma that we're not learning anything about in school to be able to begin to unwind from it. And it's not just the way we're raised. It's not just, you know, what our parents model to us. It's not just the dynamics that we have with maybe our friends or breakups with our girlfriends, boyfriends, or, you know, loved ones. You know, it's just like none of that is being addressed. And if we can't reflect upon truth, if we're being kept from our, you know, true history, if there's rewritten history, we can't heal as a collective. We're not learning things in school that help us to self-reflect and move, you know, forward and take huge leaps together as a collective. Literally, it's the truthers that have to break through all that indoctrination and question everything and educate themselves, or, you know, which involves really listening to yourself. You're the greatest teacher to yourself, to find your way out of the madness. And when you don't do that, it's like there is a very incredible epidemic of mental illness, depression, and all sorts of, things that people are walking around seeming to be happy, but they're on Xanax, they're on Valium, they're on a lot of pharmaceuticals, Ambien. I mean, the addiction to the pharmaceutical industry is pretty rampant. And I'm not saying people don't have natural joy, but they usually hit a wall, and there's been so much hiding behind the scenes, sexual abuse, just extortion, and then, trafficking rings and things right under our nose connected to ritual abuse. I mean, it is so hard to wrap one's head around the level of corruption and how it's infiltrated. And any being, because we're all sensitive, if we shut off that sensitivity, then we're not tuning in, then we're not taking action. We're numbing that down, and we're just going along with things. And we are literally voting for and answering to people that need to be, held accountable. And the ones that are really looking out for us and doing their job and caring about our health and wellness and our personal sovereignty in terms of that, helping us heal ourselves and not just taking over that, teachers who truly care, they will stand, they will be a lot more obvious. But in these times, and my clients have shown me this, I know you guys have seen this, they've been like ostracized.
Yeah.
And they've literally, and we see that with the doctors that, have stood up and say, I'm not going to go along with this. The level of ostracization and demonization and smear tactics on those who truly care, it really comes down to, this Chiron wound that'll be in Taurus, your wounded self-worth. Can you take it out of the hands of those that are defining it and smearing you, and put it in the hands of like spirit, your soul, and doing the right thing, and forget about what your friends and family think and that paycheck? Because Taurus also has to do with possessions and money and abundance. Can we look at that wound and say, it's not worth it to me just for the sake of answering to the world of appearances? And Chiron is the gateway to ascension, because being mindful of those wounds and answering to something greater in you will direct those wounds into wisdom and your pain into purpose. And if you don't, it'll just be infected. It'll be assimilated into AI. It'll be used to play with you and to limit you while you still get that paycheck. And where is that going to go? Is that going to go in the grave with you? No. Sorry, that was just a rant.
I can't believe the synchronicities of this, because I was just having a conversation on exactly what you've just described there with one of my best friends in Australia this morning. And we both came to the conclusion it's about having that confidence to stand in your inner power and not be driven by what the external people are saying. So from everything you said there, I mean, it certainly sounds like there's going to be, we spoke before we started about the shifts and the pace of change is just picking up so much, but it sounds like we've got a very explosive time. Are there particular markers that you can see in the astrology that people need to be aware of?
Definitely that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and Uranus moving into Gemini, July 2025. So that should be a time of like a lot more feeling of liberation as far as what we share, information that we, share. Uranus in alignment with Neptune and Pluto, is very helpful. Not to say there are not going to be challenging aspects to Uranus, but Uranus is connected to the higher mind. It's the planet of sovereignty, independence, and truth, but it's also the rebel. So that should be really helpful. As far as the rest of the year, I really, looking at, the eclipses ahead and the final year of the North Node in Aries and Chiron in Aries and that shift, right? So when we look at all the trigger events, they're not creating healing, they're creating more divide and conquer. So we have to really watch out for a lot of the different alignments that are going to be happening with Chiron. Now, Pluto is square Chiron right now, and that is going to intensify. And over the course of the next couple of years, Saturn's going to get close to Chiron with a square to Pluto. So that's going to be a major breaking point for people. And unfortunately, witnessing a lot of casualties in those that are just not going to make it in this physicality. And that's okay, because they will reflect on this lifetime and evolve somehow and grow. I feel that, all souls will eventually be liberated from whatever they have been looping in or wherever they've been, compromised, because the magnetic pull back to the source is just encoded in us. And it can be compromised. The process of coming home again can be delayed, but I feel no soul is left. And the unconditional love of Creator is so strong. And that's a part of our DNA. That's a part of who we are. to awaken to. And that's why we can heal in the same kind of power that Mother Earth does. So as this Pluto square Chiron is taking place, and Pluto entering Aquarius with this square to Aries Chiron, the toxicity is at an all-time high. So when a square aspect shows up, it shows a lot of tension. And if you're not able to release, the toxicity, it can poison your system. And like you said, it can come in the form of thoughts. It can come just in, just exposure without shielding, without, being careful to, if you're just in the line of fire of it and you notice something being thrown off in your system and you don't rebalance and you don't take that time, the toxic effects of this Chiron Pluto square is literally causing a major breaking point. So we'll see, people not able to go through that release and transformation and that healing. And we'll see many that will. And with Chiron and Aries, it's going to have to do with the wounded ego, the wounded identity, and the need to be humble and say, wow, maybe I was mistaken. Wow, maybe this isn't who I truly am. Maybe this job isn't what I thought. Maybe this relationship, or maybe, just everything about ego identity. So you got the not the flip side, but you have the other version of it, which are the wounded warrior, the wounded truther, the warriors that, are being like blasted constantly. Because the thing is, Mars is going to move into alignment. The Aries energy is moving in alignment with Saturn and Neptune. So the ego energy is no longer just compartmentalized in the personality matrix. It is now open to the fullness of the multidimensional self. So the wounds are showing, can you let go and embrace more of all that you are? Or are you going to hold on so strong to the point of it poisoning you and being so toxic that it's going to kill you? So this is, the breaking point. And when Saturn is conjunct, it's really going to ask, did you move into self-mastery, or are you still complying? So the fear that people feel, I think, is admitting they're wrong, or seeing the intensity of criminality that exists in the underbelly of some of the things that they might have been born into or might have participated in for most of their lives. It's also going to have to do with understanding the leaders. A lot of the leaders out there, not all of them, have alters. They're sleeper agents. They're not even in possession of themselves. What you might think is authentic about them could be triggered into a different altar and do something completely horrific. We need to understand something so immense as a humanity that if we don't, the toxic effects of these dark agendas are going to really cause more and more damage to those that don't want to look. Those that are willing to and all about it, we need to come together and in transparency and humility have each other's back, not drop into the divide and conquer, not, be in this competitiveness and negative ego, which is the Chiron Aries. And anybody who's not looking at their wounds is going to act out in a personality kind of distorted kind of way. And that's where we kind of see the worst coming out in people, and these trigger events that are being cast upon us on purpose so that we just battle each other. We need to take the higher road and be like, I love you. I forgive you. We are going to be the conduits of this unconditional love. Look at what we've been up against, cut each other some slack, and be willing to, move through this together. And what's being perpetuated and what's really being encouraged is, labels, gender confusion, political parties, and accepting a trajectory of a future that is based in the problem, reaction, solution, false disclosure, all sorts of things that have been covering up, our true just awakening. So this Pluto square Chiron, when I see it in people's charts and I read it, a lot of them have suffered, childhood illnesses. They were really close to death. They were on, their deathbed and recovered somehow. That's how intense this particular aspect is. So people are already starting to feel it, and it creates a lot of tension with the Uranus energy with the Pluto. But it's the most beautiful thing because it's going to cause you to unearth traumas that are not just yours, but are held in the collective, that are connected to our galactic history, that are connected to, just all the different topics people like us explore and speak on. And the most important thing is that you're gentle with yourself. People that are hearing this for the first time, you don't have to like plunge into it and understand it all. It's not about getting overwhelmed in the mind, but, recognizing enough of these warnings in order to step back and reevaluate your agreements. and how much you really want to go against what your intuition is telling you. And if you don't give yourself time to listen to that, go into nature, take a camping trip, go away for a couple weeks, really give yourself the blessing and time to hear your own thoughts, because you know exactly where you need to go. You know exactly what you need to do. And if you don't give yourself the time to listen to it, the wounds of these dark agendas and how they're afflicting humanity and acting like they care about us to solve them are just going to enslave us further. So don't overwhelm yourself. Just give yourself the space to hear yourself, and you will notice the synchronicities that support the intentions that you hold for yourself and the things that you want to see, versus the things that are hooking in and taking advantage of it and then harming you worse. Because the next wave of harm is going to be a lot worse than the one before, and a lot of people won't survive it. Sorry, I'm rambling big time today.
You're not rambling at all. We're speechless. There's not many people that can get us speechless, is there, Frank?
No. And like Laura said, don't let it all scare you, but let it open your eyes. Just to do something step by step in a different direction than where you're currently at. Filter your water. Grow your own garden. I have 2 hens that lay the most amazing eggs. I eat eggs probably 6 times a week, and I feed my chickens the best possible stuff they can. I wouldn't buy a store-bought egg ever because the taste is so incredibly different. And what's my cholesterol like? Absolutely perfect. So ignore the lies. Just give yourself some meditation after listening to this. Let it sink in and ask yourself, what about me do I need to explore or know more about or change or heal from? And forgive yourself. Forgive yourself and forgive all the evil out there as well. Don't hold any hatred in your heart. As bad as it's going to get and what you're going to hear and learn as we have progressed here, oh my God, I'm so concerned about Mandy, Laura, and Catherine, because if you, the general population, if they knew one iota of what Laura's been through, and you look at her today and the magnificent person she is and shares from her heart and is moved past all that trauma, leave the trauma behind and look to improve your health, your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health. It's all up to you, though. We're just providing you some tools and keys to learn and listen and explore. I hope this wakes people up.
Totally.
So beautifully said, Frank. Really, really is. And Laura, I'd like to sort of finish off. I can't believe how quickly, I know time's an illusion, everyone, but the time goes so quickly when we're with such lovely friends. Laura, what are some of the things, because you've got so many skills available to you, what are some of the things that you're needing to do now personally to keep your physical vessel, emotional, spiritual, all together? Because you have a lot thrown at you and a lot of demands made of you.
Oh gosh. Well, I can't wait to just have some more time. I know the hour went by so fast. I have so many questions for both of you. So I'm gonna we'll be sure to do that. And you're just, both of you, you've really got this down. So as far as just really incorporating just health and wellness into your everyday, every moment. So I try, and just be mindful all the time from the minute I wake up till I go to bed. What are my thoughts? What am I allowing into my being? I'm very, and have been for a long time, conscious of the food I put in my body. I actually ran an organic shipping and delivery company in the early 90s before the big health food chains. And I was in a delivery truck going around DC. We didn't have a GPS. So I was like on the side of the road crying all the time, like, where am I? But I would take it to chemically sensitive people and, really clean food because they couldn't leave the house. So I've been like in this field for a really long time. So the food part, I pretty much have down, but it's when, somebody comes along, you know, like both of you, that introduced me to things like ASEA water, which I know we'll talk a little bit about before we go. So I've incorporated that. I do the LifeWave patches, and I get out in nature as much as I can. And when I need to maybe shift something in my schedule because energetically I'm just not where I want to be, I'm just honest about it. Why would I want to provide somebody a session if I'm not okay? Why would I want to jump on a thing if I'm not at my best? So it's not an easy thing because I always want to show up. But when I need the boundary, I'm learning to honor that. And I'm also learning to know when to say yes and when to maybe not. And that has been like really hard because I realized like, wow, it's not that I don't want to, but like right now it's energy preservation. If I just got blasted with some kind of attack, and a lot of it come through people, it's been like so brutal, you know, all the censorship and then a lot of the division in the community. And I'm like a peacemaker. I'll do anything to work things out, talk it out, and bring it all together and greater understanding if there's misunderstanding. And those that refuse to do that, well, it's like, okay, well, they showed their true colors. But still unconditional love, forgiveness when they're ready, you know, and if I can sort out any misunderstanding, I'm always here for that. And to answer to anybody's fears, you know, when they're like, oh, Laura, you know, is really a Russian spy. She's an asset. She's, you know, it's like, okay, I'm not going to freak out. I can understand that people are having a hard time knowing who is who. They don't understand my family. They don't know a lot about all this. And I'm happy to sort it out. But there's a certain point where, you know, I just have to shut it down, especially if it's abusive. So better boundaries, knowing when to say no, not allowing things to get into my space that are going to cause more derailment than I want to bring into my system because it's really upsetting to me. But also being very compassionate and understanding of the challenges that people are under, and not to take it so freaking personally. It's like, look at what we're dismantling. They don't know me. They've never come over. You know, they're hearing something from some troll that they think is a legit person. I'm just choosing grace and ease, love, forgiveness for myself, and a lot of contemplation. You know, so it's just an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. Just being mindful, and doing my best to correct my ways if I notice that I start to fall into a destruction pattern. Because when I'm getting attacked or there's a lot coming at me, I don't tend to fight back. I tend to take it out on myself, and that's when I used to just drink or like smoke, So I had to just really push myself to not grab those vices, but to grab things that are a form of me loving myself. Good products, essential oils, Epsom salt baths. So when I feel like, really hurt or I'm breaking down, that I don't reach for something that's going to harm me, and I'm not looping in a negative behavior pattern of self-destruction, but I'm giving myself the love in that moment that it can be hard to come by, especially if you have difficult relationship with your mother growing up. It's really difficult to step in for yourself in those moments. Not to say she was terrible, but we are healing from a lot. And so when I feel into that in my body, I'm more apt to give it unconditional love and attention instead of, judgment and taking it out on myself. So I'll leave it at that because I'm going off a lot. What about you guys?
I've really needed recently actually to really up my game on looking after myself. So I resonate with everything that you've both said. I'm so lucky in that I've created a life for myself where a big part of my life is my little rescue animal sanctuary. And I work with animals and people who love animals. So that's a win-win situation. And that keeps me sane. And what I've really realized is that when people have this beautiful realization that when they do something to help someone else, whether it's an animal or another person, and they can see objectively what's happening, because you're so right, people have been fed so much misinformation. Most of us are, a lot of people have lost the ability to discern what's real and what's not. But some results, when you start, like the beauty of working with Frank, I mean, Frank's health transformation has been unbelievable. And he's done that all himself. He listened to his dad at a very, very difficult time in his life. and he decided that he was going to make changes and open his mind to something different. And Frank, I can't tell you how much I admire you for all you've done, and subsequently all the people. So for me, it's about having these tools in your toolbox and having the right people that have got your back in your group. And that's so, so important. And I think we need that more than ever now.
Totally. It's so important.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and you two are a perfect example of those potential tools. I mean, if you're not following Catherine or Laura, you're doing yourself an injustice, because you two provide tools at the emotional and how to live with everyday life, as well as healthy supplements. I would have never found ASEA had I not been following Catherine. I would have never fully woken up if I didn't have a reading with Laura. I mean, step out of your boundaries. Stop succumbing to the norm. Don't listen to the idiot box, because they're lying to you anyway. So stop listening to the lies and ask yourself, is this good for me? If you have any doubt, it's your higher self, your intuition telling you no. Listen to your intuition and follow what's in your heart, not so much in your mind. And it's not easy, because you're going to learn things that are going to blow your mind, are going to hurt you, are going to make you upset, make you angry, but you have to let that go, because forgiveness is a big key to healing, I think. Yeah. And then without the right supplements such as magnesium, and I mean, honestly, Catherine, maybe you can elaborate on this blue bottle that Laura showed, because without these molecules, our cells can't do what they were designed to do. Our bodies were designed to heal ourselves, but we got everything working against us. And this is a solution to help stop that working against us. If you don't take action, you just fall prey to what's going on. Take action, right?
Yeah,
Totally.
just run through very quickly, because I know what Laura said in her astrology analysis. Yeah, there's so many things I wrote down, Laura, that are so key, but it's about connecting back in and having that energy, getting our energy, our vitality back. And in a nutshell, ASEA are the only company that make what's called these redox signaling molecules. And redox stands for reductants and oxidants. And every single cell of our body, Laura was talking about activating the so-called junk DNA. Well, part of the reason that we're not fully able to activate the power within us, if people add up how much energy is stored within the human body, it can power the earth multiple times over, but we don't have access to a lot of that energy because the communication systems are broken down, and because we're full of a lot of the toxicity, it's been broken. So in a nutshell, this is bioidentical to what's in every living cell, whether it's plant, animal, human, and it's putting that life force back into you so that you've got the vibrancy from the cell level up to really perform as you as an individual were meant to. And then connecting cell to cell communication. Everything we've done today is about communication. Laura's really the expert about how we can communicate with the planets and the ether. But if we can't communicate with our own cells, we can't get that intuition back. We don't feel strong enough to make the changes and really become everything we're meant to be. So there's so much science. We'll come back, the three of us, and we'll do more on that. So please don't worry. If you want more on that, let us know. And all Laura's details are going to be below. If you haven't had a reading with Laura, please book one. It will change your life. Frank's details will be below. So if you want more details on health, about how you can take the next level for your own health and healing, contact Frank. Have that conversation. There's no obligations with any of this. Make that step. But we've got to do something different to get something different. So you guys, honestly, what a fantastic combination. I absolutely love it. I'm sure we'll be back to do more. Any final words from you, Laura?
Oh, I just really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for having me and for all that you both do and for introducing me to this I've noticed a huge change. I mean, really, the clarity I feel, the energy I feel, the rapid ability to recover from things. And I just feel a certain confidence that it's just like, oh, yeah, I'll feel better once I have that. And then when I run out, I'm like, Frank,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm kind of going through this a little fast. He's like, oh no, it's okay. You're just gonna have to get more. And it's, so yeah, and I just wanted to say, yeah, animals and nature, and it's so incredible what you do, and it's so obvious the medicine that you surround yourself with, and the energy and frequency, in both of your lives. It's just like so clear. It just comes through. What you've done, what you do in your everyday, how inspiring that is for me, to see. And I feel, yeah, like when we all come together and support one another, it's so much easier to put that best foot forward and just hold hands together and lift each other up, and remind one another. And so this is what we're here to do, in service to humanity. And I wouldn't share any product unless I live by it, unless it worked for me. So I tend to, be very, cautious and careful about even talking about anything unless I've given it a try. And I've already been on this for 2 months and I'm blown away, really. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll be back to go into more of the science and things like that. But reach out if you need help and re-listen, like Frank and I are going to Laura's wisdom multiple times. And the main thing is, don't let them get you into a fear state. Say hi vibe. Feel free to come and join our community. We'd love to have you there. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Laura. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.